Welcome to the Emotional Fitness Gym podcast, episode 11.
Where this is a space for real conversations about the inner world and how it shapes the way we live, lead, love, and relate.
Emotional fitness is learning to notice what's happening within you, regulate under pressure, and respond from who you want to be, not just old patterns.
And today we're joined by Laura. Laura doing meaningful work in this space.
This isn't about perfect answers. It's a grounded conversation where we slow down, stay curious, and explore what actually happens when people grow.
As always, we'll leave you with a simple gym rep, something practical you can take into your own life this week.
And if this resonates, please follow the show and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. So let's begin.
So let's take a breath and land. There's no rush. We're here for real conversations, not a performance. And our lovely guest, Laura, just so you know, you can say pass or let's keep it at high level at any point. This is a space to bring your journey and work into purpose and presence.
Awesome.
So now let's introduce the EFGP's next guest in episode 11. Today we're joined by Laura Gutiérrez. Now that's probably as best as I'm going to get it. I feel very bad from my roots, but that's okay. The white man got it. He can jump. Now the founder, Laura, is the founder of the Love Approach Project. Laura is an emotional fitness coach. She's a breathwork facilitator and behavioural specialist. Her vibrational healer, and she's based in Sydney, Australia. Through her work, she supports busy people, conscious leaders, and those navigating stress, change, and uncertainty or emotional overwhelm to reconnect with themselves and move through life with more calm, confidence, and clarity. Her approach brings together emotional fitness, breath work, behavioral profiling, sound healing, vibrational healing, and heart-centered self-discovery. At the core of Laura's work is the belief that real transformation begins with the deeper and more compassionate relationship with yourself. Laura has worked with individuals and groups, organizations, helping people build emotional resilience, restore their energy, and find what she calls their own unique recipe for fulfillment. And today, we'll explore how love, harmony, breath, behavior, and emotional fitness can help us navigate life's inevitable challenges in a more grounded, empowered, and conscious way. So let's get started, Laura. Thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to this episode because of what we're going to uncover and how important it is for emotional fitness.
Thank you. Thank you, Brent and Valerie. It's so cool that we managed to finally get together. So delighted to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'll sort of introduce Valerie. Thank you, Valerie, for being here today. And would you sort of like to sort of kick off with a few questions for Laura?
Yeah, that'd be great. So, moving into your origin story and how it led to where you are today. So, who is it you help and what they're struggling with when they find you, so you can move them through the process of what you do with people?
Okay, so you talked about my origin story. And I would say that I have to start back in 2010 when I started suffering from severe anxiety and panic attacks. And back then, the only solution that I was offered was medication. And not that I have anything against medication, but that wasn't the route that I wanted to take. And so that started me on a journey of finding a different way to manage, to heal, to, work through that experience. Back then, all I wanted was to get better because I couldn't leave home. I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't really be with my family. I couldn't do my studies, etc., and work. And so this took me on a journey of self-discovery. And I started initially by diving into energetic healing practices like Reiki, crystals, flower essences, and things like that. And then I ended up meeting my now ex-husband in Colombia. And with him, I moved to Australia. So we met in Colombia, and I moved here. And when I arrived here, it was like a big world of personal development and growth opened up, something that I hadn't discovered in Colombia. And I was like, oh my goodness, there are so many modalities, so many things that I can learn. And as I learned for myself and with the intention of healing myself and helping myself, I realized that it was in me, it was my calling to share all of that with others. I needed to. It became like something that wouldn't leave me. Like I had to do it. And so in 2014, after I got married, I came back from Colombia from our honeymoon, and I come back to work, and they say to me, "Oh, sorry, you don't have a job anymore." And I was like, "What? What am I gonna do now?" And so that threw me basically into a week of. I don't know if you familiar with Hay House with the
Yes,
publisher?
yes.
Yeah. They used to have a week-long of training, free trainings and things like that called the Hay House World Summit back then. That was 2014. And I was like, well, I have the time. This is for free. And I dove for a week into all the content they had. Like I listened to everything, watched the videos, the movies, read the books, etc. At the end of that week, I felt so inspired and so like moved by my own journey, by what I was learning. And I was like, this is it. I have to create a group. I have to create a group, and I'm going to bring people together, and I'm going to prepare a topic in which we talk about personal development or personal growth. And then I'm going to do it here at home. And we used to live in a very tiny apartment. And my ex-husband was like, "You're crazy. How are you gonna do that? All those strangers." And he was like, I don't want anything to do with that. And I was like, just give me permission to do it here at our place. And he said, "Yeah, okay." And so I basically started bringing friends and people that I didn't know every 2 weeks, and I would share a topic that I had already worked with, and then I was able to teach it. And this is something that I always share in like when I'm interviewed or something. I had a teacher back in Colombia. He was a martial arts teacher, kung fu teacher, and he said to us, to his students, "We are students of or pupils of what there's still yet to be learned, and teachers of what we have already learned." And that inspired me. That moved me. I thought, if I have already worked with this, even if I am a little bit ahead of the others, I can share this information. I can guide someone else, even if I am just a little bit ahead. And that was how the Love Approach project started. It started like a project of getting together to learn more about ourselves, to heal ourselves. And then the journey moves on. Like it has evolved massively since then.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, how you personally have gone through that journey and experienced all that. And I'm sure our listeners that are listening about, the anxiety and the stress and everything else that's happening and all the uncertainty in the world, and the fact that you inspired yourself to be on that journey and that path to, you know, start the healing journey,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful. And you had the capacity at the time, I guess, to realize, well, hang on, medication isn't for me. Let's find another way. So as it's not always the way for some people. And I know that in my own journey, I was told in my 20s that diagnosed with clinical depression,
Mm.
But however, I chose that, well, hang on, I can get out of bed.
Mm.
That was my insight back then. So I'm like you, I chose the natural way. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong, there's been many hiccups along the way.
of course.
However, yeah, it brings us back to that emotional fitness journey of
Yeah.
where we are today, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. As you mentioned this, it's like when I look back, I think now I have so much awareness and I know myself so much better that I think, wow, how did I make that decision back then?
Mm.
How did I make the decision of initiating a healing journey that I had no idea how it was going to go? and if it was going to work, you know. But I did. And I'm so grateful for it because it's taught me so much and it's what has helped me help others. And as we have all learned with Joe, about emotional fitness, like it really is all about becoming more like friends with uncertainty and like welcoming uncertainty as a source of growth and learning and expansion. And that has personally been my journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was getting goosebumps when you were talking about how when you were sort of had a life moving into what it is that you had to do for yourself,
Yeah.
and then you got inspired, and then I was like, oh, it's just like every coach's story, which is what the podcast is all about. Like, why are you so inspired, and why do you do what you do? And because not everyone wants to help people, and some, it's such an interesting the makeup as well. I love what the podcast is about. And I would love to ask because I'll start again. What I'd love to know is in that story, because you're talking about that journey that you then went from self and look, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
What do you think that chapter, I guess, taught you or teach you best about identity, self-trust, and responsibility? Because there's so much in that from doing to then serving.
Yeah, well, I have always known though that I had come here to serve. I just didn't know how I was going to look. I've always been very empathetic and very much attuned to people's emotions. This comes, and I want to mention this because I see it here a lot in my practice, and it's that when you experience hypervigilance, when you grow up in an environment that doesn't feel fully safe or that where you feel that your needs are not being met and all of this, you become, well, in my case, I became hypervigilant and highly attuned to people's moods, to what they were doing, where they were at. I was like really good at walking on eggshells and all of that. And even though that obviously put my nervous system into a state of fight, flight, and fawn and all of that for a long time, I could even say still today, is what has helped me also help others. So it has become a part of the gift because I can quickly connect and attune to my clients and know how they're feeling. I sometimes feel it straight away in my body, what they are going through, And so I guess that I always knew that I was made for that, for serving. And as I went through my journey and I realized, hold on a second, I am not the only one going through this. In fact, part of my decision of not using medication was because I had a really good friend who had been medicated for over a decade at that time, and her life wasn't getting better. And so for me, it was like, okay, there are people that are experiencing these different things. And if I can share something, if I can shed a light somewhere, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. I'm not there to resolve everybody's issues or, fix their lives. But if I can shed a little bit of light onto something, then my job is done. And I have felt incredibly supported. Like, I mean, I'm very into all the energy aspect of things, very woo-woo as well. And I believe that I've been supported by a higher power, by source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, into continuing this work, basically.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did, and then it makes me have more. Similar to me, and I don't recommend anyone that does take pharmaceutical drugs or medication to just say, "Hey, I'm not going to do it." I mean, it's a big decision,
Okay.
and talk to a clinical psychologist, obviously, your care professional around this. But I also took the same path, being neurodivergent, and dyslexia are hyper emotionally. We feel it. So I had a emotional regulation. I should do stuff around emotional fitness.
Yeah.
But it was hard time between having those, trying them, and the suppression of self or identity or self-trust, the responsibility to take care of self instead of external, which is sort of the coaching becoming back to agency. But then I really saw that with the difference, but it was not for everyone, but it was a hard journey to balance my emotional fitness. And I mean, breath work for me has been that space to calm that down. And that's my little segue into bringing into the audience and the listeners to explain what it is you do and why breath work and what's vibrational healing and how do I get some of this?
So where would you like me to start? So I think,
Actually,
yeah,
Laura, sorry, I'm going to interrupt a minute
yeah,
because you said earlier from a philosophy from a martial artist, and they've got the Tao, the way,
yeah,
because I do qigong. So this martial artist way includes the breath work.
yeah,
Qigong includes breath as well. So the fact that you learnt that back in the day, like that one sentence just changed the trajectory. So is that, I guess, is that what led you to breathwork from that martial artist, or what was the first thing that you did? I guess that helped. I think
I
that would be the best thing.
it's interesting. Like, I only got into breathwork after like a decade of already being, practicing healing and coaching, and I had learned so many different ways in which I could manage uncertainty and anxiety and, all that, especially when something challenging happened or something unfamiliar happened, um, anxiety would be triggered. And so I had all my mindset tools and all that stuff, but anxiety was still pretty much there, you know.
Mm.
And then one day my ex-husband got practicing Wim Hof, and I was like, "What is that?" Even though I already had an awareness of the breath, because as you say, Valerie, I had been in touch with Kung Fu and Qigong and all these things, but it had never clicked. And so when I went to my training, I decided to go for a training and become a facilitator for breathwork. One of the first things that I learned was what happens in the body, in the chemistry of the body, between oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitric oxide. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my goodness, that is all I needed to do, was learn to breathe. Learn to actually, as simple and silly as it sounds, is learn to do long exhalations, for example. Learn to use my diaphragm. Learn to, or retrain myself to breathe through my nose only because I was a mouth breather. And those simple changes made a difference. Anxiety stopped being a day-to-day thing. And it became more like an unconscious default, let's say, that then I could manage or control or navigate through my breath. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, always. So I'm just sitting here thinking about. Well, it was. I'm being emotionally dysregulated. We can choose to go down the path of being the aggressive or go within ourselves or whatever strategy we're making. But I really believe that holding of the breath or the consciousness of it, that I know I've talked to you about it, is like that space, or like I talk about like the pause, and there's so many different ways to pause. But it's definitely changed the energy. It's like an energy mute button where you can just stop to go, and then you can regulate yourself. Yeah. So to tell us more about that, like when people come to you,
Yeah.
like what are they struggling with? What are they having issues around? What are they seeking with you? And yeah, how do you help them with that?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say before I answer the question that I realized that the breath was at the intersection of everything that I had already learned. And that it was also at the intersection of mind, body, emotions, and spirit. So through the breath, I could access everything: the mind, the body, my emotions, and my spirit. And I could use it, basically, I could use the breath and impact the whole of me. Hmm? And so when that realization came, it was like, oh my goodness, this is the missing piece. And it became then kind of like the main part of my practice.
Mm.
Mm.
And I'm going to add to that before you jump. Doing your breath work at the conference a couple of years ago, I realized, my whole system like shut down for 3 weeks after that. I became so unwell, but it was the emotional release that was happening at the time. It probably happened a week before I attended the conference as well. So I knew that part of it. So I understand how powerful the breath is and how much it can shift people through that as well. And I know you do it in a beautiful, safe, regulated space on top of that. But at the time, I didn't understand the power of it. And I thought to myself, someone introduced me to a 10-day, I don't know if you've ever done a 10-day silent breath work for Vipassana, and that just changed everything on top of the breath that you'd introduced me to. And it was just, wow. I didn't really, and I was doing Qigong as well. So I was immersing myself in all this breath, understanding exactly what you said. It's the mind, body, spirit, and the emotional, everything all tied in together. And how important we can look at it and think, hang on, it's just simple, it's just breath. But however, no, it's learning the technique correctly, like someone like you showing us.
And I have learned that the breath is life, right? And all the ancient traditions talk about the breath as being the first thing, right? And when we are born, what is the first thing that we do? We take a breath. And when we die, what is the last thing that we do? We exhale, right? So everything is the breath. And the image that comes to me is, I think it's in the Bible where they describe that God, let's say, they use the word God, right? But breathe it into the clay figures, let's say, and then became alive. And so when we just think about that, if you stop breathing, I always say to my clients, you can't stop eating for as long as you want. You can't stop drinking water for, let's say, a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. But you cannot live without your breath for more than 30 minutes if you're trained. Maybe, let's say, 1 hour if you're like supernatural, right? So the breath it's life. When we learn to connect to that energy, basically to our life energy, then everything changes. When we realize that we have, as you mentioned before, Brent, like agency, the breath is one of the only functions in the body that you can control, that is both autonomic and also intentional. So when you realize that you're like, okay, maybe this is designed for me to be able to use it at will as well. And so to answer the question that you had asked me before, many of my clients come to me when they feel like heavy, they're burdened. Many of them come to me with, there's so much at work going on. There is, there are issues at home. Most of them are parents. Most of them are either business owners or they are in a position of, high-level management. And they have so much going on that they start living life outside of them. And it's like there's a disconnect. They don't know themselves. They have lost connection with that. And the breath is an amazing way of bringing people back here first. So, go, please.
No, that's amazing. I was sitting, I think you've just given me like a new little analogy that I have to now live by, and we should all listen to this, because life is only the short pause between two breaths. And we need to stop in that pause, and we just go rushing around. But really, how do we meet gratitude? Through just pausing and seeing what we're not missing. And how do we deal with emotional overwhelm, realizing that there's no bad outcome and you're in control? And if you think about everything about control is releasing, but life is all about breathing in for the first time and releasing all the way to the end. I love that. I love that. And the other part about what you're saying is no, that's gone. I'm going to go back to you, Valerie. Gone.
It happens. like the breath, you know?
Like my breath, yeah.
Out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, as I was going to say, so really, if you think about it, who does Lara help? Well, all of us, because you just sort of explained the majority of people and the experiences that we're all going through, and that also presupposes that there is a answer for all of us, and it's maybe learning about more about ourselves and that sort of control. So, I guess, like, what does the repair look like? What do people sort of go through? I guess you're sort of explaining how the breath work relates to, say, emotional fitness practices, maybe one of those pillars we can look at.
So I just love the way Joe has always explained what emotional fitness is, or how it can be. Let's say, how do we know that we are emotionally fit? And when he says, emotional fitness is measured by our relationship, by the quality of our relationship with uncertainty, right? So when you are going, or when we are going through a moment of uncertainty, of challenge, of change and familiarity, usually what happens is that our breath pattern changes. So because we are either stressed out, we're anxious, whatever. And so usually it becomes faster. People start using their shoulders, all the accessory muscles. It's shallow, it's short, or sometimes it's like a lot of air in, a little bit of air out. Um, so we realize in that moment that there is a correlation between not being able to navigate uncertainty resourcefully and how we're breathing. So if you change the way you breathe, or when you change the way you breathe, that also implies that you will be able to navigate uncertainty differently. Hmm. The example that I love to give is when we jump in an ice bath. And Valerie, you had the experience at the mini retreat at the conference. So if you jump in an ice bath but you don't know how to breathe through that, the first thing that you're going to do is going to shock. Anxiety, because it's a natural reaction of the body. Right? It's a shock for the body.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
if you jump in the ice bath, knowing how to breathe through that experience, it's a different thing. Because yes, your body is going through the experience of the shock, but you are conscious and consciously navigating it through your breath. So you're not going into fight and flight full on. You are regulating yourself in the moment. And I think that's the analogy. That's why I like to use them, to be honest. I know there are many other benefits, of course, but it's because in that moment you understand, if I can navigate this with my breath, I can navigate anything. Hmm? And this is it, the breath. I would say that the most powerful exercise there is when it comes to breath work is breath awareness.
Yep.
Where is your breath right now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. And
There.
it's so powerful. And I was like you, Laura. I was the person who experienced anxiety and I had the tools. However, when I actually had I had previous attacks, and I wish somebody had taught me back then of how to manage that, instead of being in that overwhelm, that anxiety, that whole experience that you're in, because yeah, it's just a horrible feeling. But knowing there are tools and people like yourself to do that. So getting in the next part of that, thank you for sharing all that with us. Is there a success story from a client of yourself that you can share? No identifying any details, of course. However, just extracting the principles and practices that you use. Can you share a transformation story that represents your work?
I mean, yes, there are a few. There are different ones. Let me think of one in particular. Um, it was so funny. I had a client maybe like a month ago saying to me, we were talking about being here. So most of my clients come in person. I have clients abroad and online, but most of them come here to this space that you're seeing here. And he said to me, Yeah, so coming here. So what is this, Laura? What is this space? He said to me. He said, because in here I just find so much peace, And that is one thing that repeatedly I hear from my clients. And I'm proud of that because that is one of my aims, to be able to create that space for them. But I know that when they come here, they remember and they take that remembering with them. So I would say that it's very hard to pinpoint just one story, but all of my clients share something, and is that they realize who they are, really. And in here we have the join of everything, like the conjunction of everything. Behavioral profiling, because I use extended disc and human design with them, and that really gives them permission to explore and to be and to trial out their natural energies, their energetic blueprint, the types, the way in which they make decisions, the way in which they communicate, the way in which they create relationships, use their time, blah, 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 right? Gives them permission to do that. But also they learn how to breathe and how to use their breath in their daily situations or circumstances. Many of my clients come here wanting to change something, right? It's like, I need this to change. My kids need to stop yelling at me. I need to control them. Or I need to be able to have that conversation with my boss, or, whatever it is. And then they realize that it's okay if those things keep happening, let's say.
Yeah.
Because if they have control over them, if they know how to regulate themselves, chaos can still be out there, let's say, but they're centered. And when they're centered, they can navigate it. When they're centered, they know whether to say something or not, whether to take an action or not, whether to just be and stay present in that moment. Maybe just feel what's going on before reacting or responding. So, that's why it's sometimes it's very hard to, pinpoint one story only, because they all share that beautiful similarity, that they all learn about themselves. They give themselves permission to be themselves. They learn to breathe and navigate uncertainty like that. And they gain the tools of emotional fitness, which, as we touch on identity, values, emotional flexibility, all these things. So they really build a toolkit that they
Yeah.
take everywhere. And I would say, just to finish this question, that the success my clients have is because they understand that there's nothing wrong with them. It's more about, this is a journey. This is a daily choice that I'm making. And if I have the tools and the willingness, then I can do it. Mm.
And I love that. I want to put a bit of reality and truth to that. I remember when once I came to you in Mosman there in Sydney. I don't know if you've moved since there. Since
No,
that
I'm in
little
the
room.
same clinic. I'm in the same
Are you
clinic.
still there? Yeah. Because guys, I mean, I mean, we can all see Lara's just this beautiful energy, and she's always happy and smiley, and she's also very lovely to be around. Because I've had a nervous system, that's my thing. And it's like, oh, there's a lot, and you get overexcited. But her little space is you just walk in there, and you get it was not slapped. It's more you get like this lovely feeling of calmness. So, which is actually, to me, is not the space, it's you and what you bring, because of your and all of your journey. And then I would like to sort of like go, because I'm hearing, but look at all these things of all this success story. I don't really know which one I can do, she says. But really, um, I'll just put this in the how I guess the factual how I saw it. So what I heard was people come to you with an identity crisis. This is the beginning of emotional fitness formula. And then what they learn is emotional flexibility, but they have to understand their values about what it is that affects them. They think of the world, and then they get it clear through that. They learn their values through emotional flexibility. And then there's been things called life stages. I mean, that then comes into play about where they are and what is important for them in that spot. And then what underpins it all is that perspective. So to me, she's just running through emotional fitness formula.
Which is what we love to live by, right?
Yeah. And people really think I'm weird because we start talking about trauma and healing, and I get those moments and people have breakthrough. I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. They're going, I'm hurting. I'm
I
But
know. Yeah.
that's just me. So I really, so I've experienced that energy and knowing you and knowing emotional fitness and e-disc. So that's what I saw there. So here's the next question to go with that, because we missed it. What do you first? What e-disc? Because you're an e-disc practitioner, as like us. What are you, and what's your structure? It's going to be multiple questions. Sorry, but what are you in that e-disc? What do you think was your captain energy with that? And I guess bringing e-disc into that. Like, who are you? How does that work? And what has helped you go through your experience?
Oh, so I had my first disc test done in 2018. And back then I was like, oh, I don't really understand this.
No one does at first.
And that's true.
I was like, great. But back then, what came up as my captain energies were I, S, and a little bit of C. But then I did my test again, and then I got 50 I, 50 S. So IS, so basically in the lower part of the quadrant, heart-based, relationships-based. I have always been like that.
Yeah. I'm surrounded by ISs.
Yeah.
And, welcome to my world, Laura. Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Yeah. And I guess that's what makes us very good at what we do, because it's very easy for us to relate to somebody else and to, just connect with them heart to heart. Even with clients that have a different profile, that have maybe more of a C or a D, captain energy. Once you know your profile, this is what I have found very interesting. Once you know your profile, you have like no judgment of somebody else's profile, but also you don't take it personally, right? You're not like, oh, this person is being so harsh or so direct or so. And now I'm very curious. I'm like, okay, well, I want to see what this profile is about.
Can you tell all the ISs out there to think like that for me? That would be great.
Oh, Brent, we love you. We really do.
I think you need to go in and talk about your profile first and say, everyone, disclaimer.
Actually, I would like to bring something else on human design, right? Now, yes, we're EFF and yes, we're EDIS, but I love about this community is we've all got these flavors that come back to what I believe this circular thing of everything the same, as above, same below. There's no disconnection, right? So human design, I'm going to come on, we got to go hang out a bit more. I'd love you to help me with a bit of my human design. I put this one phrase. Everything else is like, oh my God, this is so true. It's like, I'm happy with everything that's happened that's bad for me. Of course it did. But I've got this one phrase that states that because I'm a 5'2", so I'm 5% of the population, but my aura it bounces off people, and my purpose to life is to whatever it's called. There's that thing I can't remember, but it's to show leaders their gaps without to dethrone them without knowing all the information, and it's been bothering me. So now I understand it a lot better, but it's because I just see gaps. I see maybe missings, or I see differently, especially with dyslexia. And I thought it was as young, I was like at people, but now it's just to maybe see the growth, and then but I see myself in it. So human design is
your type.
Sorry,
do you know your type?
Yeah, I'm it was Captain Hermit. That's a 5'2", but I'm a manifestor.
You're a manifestor. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And which I'm also, I would love your opinion. Like it aligns to like if you understand e-disc, and it's like, oh, okay, well, sort of like, is this the add-on?
I know, like that's why I love to use both, because even though e-disc is very, let's say, science-based, and human design is more like a mystical,
quantum physics, kind of astrology. Based. Yeah, had a baby.
They have a lot of overlaps, and I love to show my clients that like we start with the scientific part so that they are more like grounded and they have more certainty and in
Yes.
the
With the
findings and
reports
results.
and all that. Yeah.
And then I show them their human design report, and they're like, "Oh my god!"
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I forgot your question. Sorry.
Just I guess like you sort of answered it. In the frame idea, well, everything's circular. It's like, how do you say God or how do you say universe? Or if you're someone like my family, they just think there's nothing. But within thinking that there's nothing, you also presupposes that there's something, if it makes sense. Like there's still nothing. But so it's like just pre-frames. But as I'm moving through all the different modalities and I see these connections, some stuff fades away. But like human design, well, I suppose without getting into it, I was just wondering, like, what would you say that, that the your purpose to life, right?
Yeah.
Does that come up in people when you're seeing the e-disc and then you're seeing their issues? Because everything's connected.
Yeah.
If you have a confidence issue, that might come back to a trauma, you won't feel heard or seen. But then if you look at your human design, and if you get into Kabbalah and you talk about your tikkun, it's just like, it's starting getting serious and hot in here. And the only way is forward. Do you see that sort of connection with all the things you do?
Definitely. Like I feel that I have always been very guided around what I am meant to learn next for my clients, and for me, for my own journey. So it's like everything that I learn fits in perfectly,
Mm.
And so all the modalities that I have, because I'm also a health coach. I'm an angel practitioner, crystal healing, shamanic healer, sound shaman, blah blah blah. Like seriously.
Rocking out with the love out. Yeah.
So
It's much involved.
like, and I love the concept of no energy is wasted. Like I have a degree in communication and journalism, and all of those things are supporting my work for my clients right now. But going back to your question of purpose, I think that, and in my experience with my clients and with myself, yes, there is like in human design, especially, there is like a part of your, let's say, profile or not profile, of your blueprint that tells you what you are here to do, let's say. Nonetheless, I think it's definitely an experiment, that you have to go and try it out. Or some people are expecting to be told, yeah, you're here to, build a business in electronics, like,
Yeah.
no, it's more about how are you here to serve. And I always say to my clients, you're either here to serve making cakes or selling cars or being the CEO of a company. It doesn't matter if the topic underneath those, let's say, jobs is the same. It's like what matters is what's underlying,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then when they realize that and they release this maybe need for certainty around what it is that they need to do, they go and do what their heart is calling them to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. And it's letting go of those expectations as well,
Yes,
of what
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen so many lovely people. And honestly, this statement is true. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And if you'd like to grow, be the stupidest person in the room. Um, and you get to a point where you realize, oh my God, I'm surrounded by all these beautiful people. And then you realize I'm a beautiful person.
Yeah.
And then you have these moments of, oh, I'm a beautiful person. And like I've had moments like that where why would people be talking to me if I wasn't? And then you can have these little shifts. But I sort of think that life is about just being aware that we have to move through. My whole life before all this big journey of, I've got to fix this. Is this it? Which we'll talk about in my book I'm doing. And it has to be more than this. Because I was like, well, I've seen an external interpretation. And I go, well, I would like that too. And I just think it's that gap between, I don't know. It's not a modality. It's like if you visualize, you're just a ball of energy because we are, and then we're just like mostly water because we are. And if you think about that, as in how water works, it always moves to the lowest point, and energy is always in moving. You just said there's no end. So the only difference between sadness and happiness or joy or just discuss anything like that is only the construct of how you're allowing your energy to be tight or water to be like, like no movement. And really life's just about like freedom, like breath, like that gap, right? That in between. Which I wanted to bring to I want the juicy thing now. Like I'm looking forward. There's so much good here. And we do
There is. And I just want to interrupt you there,
go.
Brent, because that gap that you're talking about, like Joe talks about that revolving door, you're in the ambition-driven world and you know there's more, exactly what you just said, but you're not sure what's going on. And that's where we go to the meaning-driven world and the contribution. So, yeah, I just felt I needed to put that in because some of our listeners might be hearing it. And I was the one. I was the one in the career thinking, there's got to be more. What's going on? Like thinking something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
However, I was just in that revolving door, and it is the most painful part to be in, as Joe says, because you're feeling lost. You're not sure what's next, And until I guess I got the guidance through a coach, I had no idea what was going on, and until I joined the emotional fitness formula, it just started making sense, and having that guidance around it. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Well, I think
carry on.
you brought in a good point. So let's just go into the ambition-driven world and the meaning-driven world. And then I think we talked about this in another episode. Men, when they hit about 40, they move 40, 50, they move from ambition to meaning, which is about, we spend our life about we think we're selfish, but we're about creation, growth, build, development. And when we get older, we move into more about meaning, which is why men go, well, my dad never said he loved me, but he says it to my child. When women move from what about others to what about self, where you see sort of a lot of women when they fly the nest and they're like become breathwork instructors and they become like artists and they do, well, what's happened to my wife? Well, she's becoming more about herself, her identity alignment and her involvement. The men are like, oh my God, I've really forgotten what matters. And then that's why they direct there. But both matter. But both are these places of ambition and meaning. And my journey from ambition to meaning and what my book's all about is working out what that means and having, I love what Joe says, like having a healthy relationship with uncertainty. But in the ambition, it's like a ambition with meaning. Like I have no ambition for a sports car, but I'll take a 1976, Austin Mini Cooper S in green, please. But so it's just so beautiful, this whole world we're all in, because I look at everything very overall now, like holistic. Because there's not one coach in their specialist modality that I don't see all these other modalities. And I've also seen them grow and flourish over like 10, 15 years doing this. And then, but what it is, it's really like their secret. Like you're all about coming to self and being your true self, Laura, and your energy and all your loves are all about energy and alignment and calmness, which is a key. So I'll go back into the saucy part, which is what I love about the EFG, is we do the 3 reps with 3 guests, and we've got three lovely EFF ladies, and they've all got these really cool stuff. But what is your gym rep?
What is my gym rep?
Yeah.
But before I go into the gym rep,
Yeah, anything.
I wanted to add to the conversation about purpose and meaning that one question that I noticed that we don't ask enough of ourselves, and I've seen this in my clients and in myself many times, and is the question of the estates person is, what can I give?
Mm.
And when we ask ourselves that, once again, it doesn't matter what we do. Is what am I contributing with? What can I give here? Is it a smile? Is it a hug? Is it a word? Is it money? Is it doing something? Is it, like once we ask that, we are on purpose. And that's what matters. And that's what shifts sometimes, well, many of the times actually, the perspective of someone that believes that they have nothing to do here in this world, that there's no purpose, there's no meaning, to, oh, actually, there is. I had a client who, going through a tough time, and he thought he didn't have much to give. And I said, well, think twice. Can you go and play that amazing instrument that you play somewhere? And he went and started playing that in homes for elderly, and lifting up the spirits of the people that were listening to him. And it had nothing to do with his job, nothing to do with, but those moments just gave him a sense of purpose and meaning.
Oh my God. So let's just answer the success story right there.
Another one.
I mean, a man with no purpose, but has a love for music to share it with old people that would just love to hear beautiful music. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
How on purpose.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So now gym reps. Okay. And so does it mean my gym reps for
Whatever you would like to share with the audience about who you are, what you are, that they can take away with them to practice whatever the point and whatever it is to help them all?
Okay. Well, there are especially two things that I always say to my clients that I personally practice and I love to share. Well, one, breathing, definitely. A variety of exercises. I love, there's one exercise that has always worked really well for me and for my clients, which is alternate nostril breathing. So covering one nostril, exhaling first through the left, and then starting to breathe like that. 10 minutes of that is like a whole meditation, in terms of how you feel. Box breathing, which is so popular now, really good for balancing the two hemispheres of the brain, used by the Navy SEAL, used in the Army, used in, so it's like used by everyone, really. Any high-level manager now knows box breathing. And I just love to experiment with breathing. How does it feel when I breathe faster? How does it feel when I breathe slower? What happens if I hold my breath? But the important thing here is making breath conscious. If I could just suggest, can you make your breath conscious? Can you become conscious of your breath? Once that happens, it stops being just automatic, and you become the owner of that. Like you have agency. And the other thing that I would say is, for me, journaling. Journaling is like it's always been with me. Actually, I've written in journal since I was very young. But I journal every night before I go to bed, and I always have a night ritual. So I journal. I maybe do a little bit of breathing if I want to, or I draw an oracle card because I'm into oracle cards. I like to maybe just listen to something that feels uplifting, or do a foot massage, or like something that feels very much helping me come back to me. But journaling, it's like, for me, it's the best way to process something after breathing. Like, you write it out, it's out, right? It's out of the system.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, oh, that's actually such a great little routine. You can, at the end of the day, do a bit of a breath work, like box breathing or one of the other techniques. Really, it's just about being aware of your breath, guys, and control and slowing it down and allowing it to sit as basic form. And then you got to go right down everything you've just realized. I love it.
With the breath. Sorry, can I
No,
just add
go.
something? Yeah.
Go.
So with the breath, something that I would love to just clarify is that many times we hear, oh, just take a deep breath, right? But deep breaths, what we understand as a deep breath is taking in a lot of air. Yeah. And that actually upsets the chemistry of our blood, and of like the chemistry between oxygen, or the interaction and the balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. When we say a deep breath, what we mean is use your diaphragm. So breathe here, breathe lower, let's say. Make sure your rib cage is moving. Make sure you're breathing also towards the front and the back. So it's like a whole torso thing. It's a 360 way of breathing. So that is a deep breath. In fact, we are meant to breathe less air. Breathe just a little bit of air. We don't need much. And in doing that, we are also allowing carbon dioxide levels to, raise a little bit. and improve oxygenation. So when usually people who talk about breath work, that's what we mean. It's just become conscious, but do not take a lot of air in. Just learn to breathe in a way that is more, how would you call that? I don't know if it's natural or
Conscious, maybe?
yeah,
Aware?
conscious, aware. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you defined that, because Brent just says, yeah, just go out in there and breathe. And there's a big difference.
And
but
breathe through
not
the
underwater.
nose. Breathe
Yeah.
through the nose throughout the day. Super important.
And I want to say, like, is if any of this resonates and you go, hey, I would like more connection, I would like more feeling in my body and all this beautiful stuff, you got to actually experience. So if you're in Sydney, or you're especially around the Mosman and that sort of area, you should contact Lara and experience what breathwork is. Because when I experienced the breathwork that I have done in the cold, it literally changes you. And the experience opens something up that's a gift that everyone has something that they get from it. So it's not just wishy-washy and woo-woo, as people would say. How can anything about self and body and coming back to self be wishy-washy? Isn't the external that we're chasing the wishy-washy? And there's a question.
What's the best first step? How can they connect with you?
Well, Instagram is one of the best ways. So at the Love Approach Project. But you can also find me with that on Facebook, LinkedIn, Laura Gutiérrez, Love Approach, my website, of course, the Love Approach Project, TikTok at the Love Approach Project, YouTube at the Love Approach Project.
It's not that simple. Any social media.
Any social media, but mainly Instagram, I would say, and LinkedIn. Those are the ones that I use the most. But obviously, if you're here in Sydney, come to one of my events. I run monthly events. It's called Just Breathe, and we do a little bit of functional breathing for transformation, and sound therapy. And it's an amazing way to get started in the journey. Yeah.
And I
that's
can totally
amazing.
recommend Laura for everything she does, because I've attended them. So
Thank
the
you.
conference.
Valerie.
Yeah.
And as usual, we'll put all these in the show notes, a little bit of abbreviation, how you can get in contact with Lara. Lara, if you would like, if there's any little special or a brochure around who you are, where you are, please give it to us so we can put it in there.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to be able to take all what you've just given, because it's like, oh, it's really a whole thing on its own. And I don't know what to pull out of that with the other amazing guests, but I know that what you've brought to us and the listeners today is really a bridge for people to come back to self, and another way apart from talk therapy to be able to do that. So thank you for being with us and sharing.
Thank you for having me. It's been like such a pleasure, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you, Laura. And it's been amazing having you on board. And thank you.
And until the next time, we'll see you in the gym.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.